Hey there, this is Jenny the Garden Designer. Get your passport ready because today we are visiting Epcot's 2023 International Flower and Garden Festival. This year, Epcot's Flower and Garden Festival takes place March 1st through July 5th, which is an entire 127 days of bold blooms and creative topiaries, making it the longest running gardening event in the United States. As far as the flowers and plants go, there are two main attractions at the festival: the garden destinations and the topiaries. This year they're showcasing 26 unique garden destinations and 26 topiaries for you to enjoy. Now, as much as I'm sure you'd love to run through all 52 of these, today I'm going to show you my festival favorites. And FYI, if you're looking for a more detailed review of the flowers and displays, I encourage you to check out my 2021 Epcot Flower and Garden videos. They are very informative and in-depth. 11 countries are represented at Epcot, each with their own gardening style. I discuss the different design styles and even a bit of history on each country's origin in gardening. We also take a look at the specific plants and flowers incorporated in Disney landscapes. That way you can recreate these amazing gardens at home if you would like. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. First step is the miniature garden in Germany. This might be my favorite. There is something about miniatures. The detail that goes into them is incredible. It's also neat to see common everyday plants plopped into a tiny landscape and how that totally changes your perspective on them. It's like you're seeing them through another lens. Because miniature gardens don't require a lot of real estate, even if you don't have a yard, you can recreate this. I've seen some very small miniature displays. With this style, it's all about the details, not the size. The tinier, the better, my friends. A few examples of plants that are perfect for miniature gardens are African violets, the polka dot plant, and succulents. I'm pretty sure every female has wanted a cut flower garden at one point, or at least thought about it. Well, now you don't have to, because Disney has delivered us the most gorgeous cut flower garden. The Bouquet garden is located at the France Pavilion, and here you will find vibrant blue delphiniums, tall, elegant foxgloves covered in pink and white bell-shaped blossoms, purple salvia, and so many more delightful spring flowers. Inspired to recreate this at home? Try growing sunflowers or zinnias. They both are easy to start from seed and make fantastic cut flowers. Elevate your houseplant game with a Kokedama. Kokedama is a Japanese style of displaying plants. Essentially, you're using moss instead of a pot to hold the plant and protect its roots. Many people hang their kokedamas. However, you can also go the more traditional route and display them on a plate or saucer. While there are many plants you can use in kokedama, tropical foliage plants such as pothos, ferns, and monsteras do well in moss balls because they have similar light and watering requirements. Similar to moss, these plants like indirect light and enjoy being regularly watered. Fun fact, if you enjoy Japanese gardens, you may want to check out my Japanese garden plan on Etsy. I provide a design and plant list so that you can create a Japanese garden at home. Simply download and plant. Next up is Prehistoric Plants. This exhibit has a tendency to be overlooked, and I really want to put an end to that. The plants displayed here were around when the dinosaurs roamed the planet. Really let that sink in. They've survived cosmic collisions, meteors, asteroids, floods, fires. I hate to break the news to you, but I don't think those cute, delicate petunias in your hanging basket would have made it. So first off, high five to these guys. Secondly, if you're looking for some low-maintenance hardy plants to add to your landscape, look no further. Cycads, tree ferns, and horsetails are just a few of the prehistoric plants that you will find here. The Songbird Meadow is a brand new garden to the festival. Aside from being very aesthetically pleasing, I appreciate the focus on native plants and the benefits to wildlife natives contribute to the landscape. Wild coffee and black-eyed Susan are a couple of the native plants you will find here. They also highlight misunderstood animals, such as bats, and their incredible contributions. Bats eat a ton of insects, which can help reduce our need for pesticides. They're also big-time pollinators. Yes, butterflies and bees aren't the only experts in this craft. It's been said we wouldn't have many of our fruits and vegetables, even tequila, if it wasn't for bats pollinating flowers at night. Speaking of tequila, let's head over to Mexico and check out the tropical rainforest garden. Orchids, orchids, and more orchids. It's beautiful back here. And bonus, it's shaded, so if you want to get out of the sun, swing through here. Orchids can be very polarizing. You either hate them or you love them. But seeing this many in bloom at one time, you just can't argue their beauty. There are a ton of different types of orchids. If you've killed a common moth orchid, don't worry, you're not alone. But don't give up on them. There are a lot of low-maintenance ones, two of which being the noble rock orchid and the ground orchid. Aside from orchids, you'll also find tillandsias, bromeliads, anthuriums, and a ton of other tropical plants. Tillandsias are epiphytes, aka air plants. They don't need soil. They take up nutrients from the rain and air. Even a bird pooping on a tree becomes a natural fertilizer for epiphytes. If you live somewhere tropical like Florida, you should absolutely take note of the plants incorporated back here for use in your own landscape. And if you live anywhere else, most, if not all of these guys, make fantastic houseplants. Fun fact, the vanilla we all love and use comes from the flower of a vanilla orchid. It's one of the most sought-after spices for cultivation. Disney used to go all out on their fairy garden. It was elaborate and encompassed the entire back area of the United Kingdom pavilion near the gazebo. It was amazing. Now it's been moved to a small bed on the outskirts of the UK. Am I a bit salty about this? Maybe. But nonetheless, the fairy garden is still worth highlighting. My favorite part of this garden is the fairy houses. They are tiny yet full of detail, similar to the miniature garden in Germany. I love the moss, stones, and pine cones used to create the framework of these magical little homes. UK is also home to the English tea garden. It's a very unique and charming space. As you meander through the English cottage garden, you can learn about the various types of tea and the tea-making process. Some of the plants used to make this traditional English drink are even grown here. Flavors like pomegranate raspberry and buttermint are displayed. I really enjoy the flowers in this English garden. An informal cottage garden is one of my favorite styles. Give me all the lavender, daisies, and snapdragons. The hostas and ivy also look lovely under the shaded canopy of a large oak. Fun fact, if you enjoy English gardens, you may want to check out my cottage garden plan on Etsy. I provide a design and plant list so that you can create a cottage garden at home. Simply download and plant. So Epcot didn't create a garden destination at Norway for the festival, but you still need to swing through for the roofs. Yes, I said roofs. Norway is known for their sod roofs, and I think it's so awesome that Disney worked that into their Norway pavilion. Grass or turf roofs have many benefits, including heat absorption and reducing stormwater runoff. You may be familiar with green roofs in urban areas, such as New York and Chicago. They are starting to catch on, and I'm all for it. There are architects and engineers that specialize in this and can transform your roof, regardless of where you live, into a beautiful green space. Bonus, you can even plant flowers up there. Okay, if you have a pond, please tell me you're going to try this one immediately after the video is over. Growing plants on the surface of the water isn't a new concept. The Aztecs started growing crops like this in 1250 CE, or almost 800 years ago. Now, it's been a while since I've done my research on this, but I believe there were a few reasons for growing plants on the water, one of which being some of these tribes lived in flooded grasslands or coastal lagoons. Dry land to grow food on was limited, so it forced them to become creative. Today, we create floating gardens that are purely decorative, like the ones you'll find at Epcot. They are full of colorful sun patients and look absolutely gorgeous. You can also create floating gardens that help with pollution. The plant roots absorb the toxins out of the water. Or take hydroponics up a notch and grow your lettuce on a floating garden. As land becomes a more sacred resource, I think it's smart to revisit utilizing bodies of water to grow various food crops. I also appreciate a plant's ability to remove toxins from water, which helps humans, of course, but also fish, turtles, and even wading birds. What's not to love about a butterfly garden? Monarchs, swallowtails, and zebra longwings fluttering around drinking up sweet nectar. I recommend coming here first thing in the morning before there is a line. It makes for a very peaceful and relaxing stroll through the butterfly house. There are a ton of different plants in this butterfly house. Some you would expect, like milkweed, but others are a bit surprising, such as the starburst bush and the manila palm. We always think about nectar-rich flowers for butterflies, but many of us forget about the host plants they need to lay their eggs on. Milkweed is, of course, a host plant for monarchs, but aside from milkweed, I think most of us draw blanks when it comes to host plants. The caterpillars also feed on these plants, so make sure you plant a mix of host plants and nectar plants in your butterfly garden. In this exhibit, they also have little wooden shelters or huts with real caterpillar cocoons inside of them. You can actually see the cocoons moving, which is really cool. Fun fact, if you enjoy butterfly gardens, you may want to check out my pollinator garden plan on Etsy. I provide a design and plant list so that you can create a pollinator garden at home. Simply download and plant. Similar to Norway, Canada isn't listed as a garden destination, and that's a head scratcher for me, because not only is it beautiful back here, but it's quiet. Like really, no one comes back here. So if you're tired of fighting the crowds and want to look at some beautiful flowers, well, you know where to go now. One of my favorite parts of this garden is the little cottage they tucked away in the back. Surrounded by flowers, it looks like a lovely place for a picnic. The garden is inspired by Butchart Gardens, located in, you guessed it, Canada, British Columbia to be exact. And with the exception of China and Japan, this is the only other country at Epcot to have a beautiful pond water feature. Here, soft white and purple violas blanket the ground, while baskets full of petunias hang from the lampposts. Another favorite of mine are the two large bears carved out of wood sitting in a bed of purple fountain grass and spring flowers. Located to the right before you officially enter the Canada Garden, they are easily missed, so make sure to keep your eyes peeled. The community garden is another new exhibit this year. As the name would suggest, a community garden brings people together. An appreciation for plants and growing your own food is a shared interest. Here you'll find yellow squash, lettuce, beets, mustard greens, Swiss chard, corn, carrots, and even unique herbs such as dark opal basil. Mixed in with the vegetables and herbs are tons of ornamental flowers. And believe it or not, there is a strategy behind this. Flowers in general bring in pollinators, which helps increase your yield and ensure a healthy harvest. This is because when some vegetables flower, they have separate parts, a male flower and a female flower. This is true for anything in the cucumber family. Squash, zucchini, cucumbers, and pumpkins fall into this category. So if the pollen in the male flower doesn't find its way to the female flower before she closes up, it won't fruit. So plant daisies, salvia, and bring in the bees, butterflies, even moths, so they can help spread the pollen. Now, sometimes specific flowers, such as marigolds, are planted because they are said to help deter rabbits and even root knot nematodes, which are microscopic worms that live in the soil and wreak havoc on vegetable gardens. I encourage everyone to start a vegetable garden. The synergy between insects, plants, and the soil is fascinating. Growing edibles helps you to appreciate the entire process. All right, those are my favorite garden destinations from the 2023 Epcot Flower and Garden Show. If you want a more in-depth review, including learning how to create your own Italian-inspired herb garden, or understanding the design style behind a Moroccan courtyard garden, or the history of a formal French garden, you need to check out my 2021 Epcot Flower and Garden videos. Now let's move on to my favorite 2023 Flower and Garden topiaries. Traditional topiaries require a hardy shrub that can withstand heavy pruning. They can take years, sometimes even decades, to shape and form. They really are a piece of art. Today, there are many ways to create a topiary, some of which being quicker and a bit easier. At Disney, they use wire frames that are shaped in the form of beloved characters such as Simba from The Lion King. They fill the frames with moss or plants like creeping fig vine. With this newer style of topiary, the possibilities are endless. This year, Disney filled many of their topiaries with succulents. Not only do they look really neat with the succulents, but it also helps reduce the amount of water or irrigation required for the topiaries. All right, so for the remainder of this part of the video, I won't be doing any talking, so sit back and enjoy the topiaries. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed coming along as we took a look at my 2023 Flower and Garden Festival favorites. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, here's your reminder to create the world you want to live in.